Are you a chiropractor with a struggling practice, having a hard time finding and keeping patients? Is your staff falling short of expectations? I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and DC Trainings has the answers that you need. So tune in now and find out how. Hello, welcome to DC Trainings. I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and it is a beautiful sunny day. For me, it's in California, and it is a great day for chiropractic. So welcome to our podcast / webinar today. We have a great topic, which is consultation details. This is week 3 of module 2 already. So we're moving along step by step through the sequence of module 2, which is the new patient module. And I was actually just on the phone this week with one of our new members, and I was enjoying explaining to him about how DC Trainings works. And one of the nice things that we talked about was how these weekly webinars give you these piece by piece or step by step pieces of what ultimately becomes a full picture of how to set up your practice and how to maintain a successful practice. So we were talking about how, each week when we get on these webinars on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, it's an opportunity for you to join in with your team and take some notes and really dial in one specific topic. And I know there's a lot that goes on in our chiropractic practices, but to encapsulate what it takes to run a successful practice into 48 sections makes it kind of nice, because you can incrementally build your practice up or adapt into some changes and really have them streamlined, rather than trying to put in too much at once and then losing a lot of good information because there was just too much at one time. So anyways, I just thought I would share that as we kick off our time today. And as I was saying, this is a really great topic, because with consultation details, which I'm going to share my screen with you, this is a topic where we start to really get into some of the things that separate DC Trainings from many other coaching programs, where we really create this connection with our new patient. I do want to provide a definition for you, because this was something that came up in my call this week, and that is the difference between a consultation and a history as it relates to the board and the legal definition. Actually, and I think I'm going to unshare this just so we can stay on point. So an unlicensed individual can obtain a patient's history, meaning your CA can take the history. That's fine. When it comes to defining the consultation by definition requires an analysis of the information that was obtained during the history. So when we talk about consultation from that aspect, from the literal definition, that's not something that a CA can do. But as it pertains to what we share in DC Trainings, which is more of a macro view, a CA can do the consultation, because in our coaching or teaching, there's not going to be any analysis required by the CA from the information that's gathered. So I just wanted to provide that clarification. Obviously, I'm using the word consultation in sort of a broad scope, but when it comes right down to the little definition, a CA cannot do a consultation. A CA can obtain the history, and then it requires the doctor to actually analyze the information obtained during the history, which that whole piece, or those two pieces, become what is known as a consultation. So anyways, just a clarification on that. But let's jump right in and go through what it takes to obtain the information and really obtain the right information to basically build retention in your practice and high conversion rates. This is really a great step of the process. So let's actually, and I have to just move something here, and there we go. So with this, well, let me just jump right in and move ahead. Okay, here's a sample of the consultation details. And this is, again, the history that's obtained by a CA or by the doctor. I know some of you, you don't have CAs doing this part in your practice yet. That's fine. But in terms of having a streamlined approach where we can help lots of people and have a streamlined consultation, we want to get good at abbreviating and filling in this particular form excuse me, in a way that's streamlined. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time to do paperwork or to fill in a form. It's more of just a casual part of this information that's coming in regarding the patient's condition. So as you can see on here, we've got our name of our patient. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. So we've got the name of our patient. We have the if it's a new patient or a reactivating new patient. If it's a reactivating or an RNP, the last x-ray date would be here, and the last adjustment, those would be there. And the reason why that's important, well, aside from the obvious, is that we want to make sure that when I'm walking in the room to see a new patient as the doctor, that information is there for me to determine, do I want to get new x-rays? Do I want to update old x-rays? Or has it been recent enough where, based on the patient's complaints, new x-rays are not required? I also want to know when the last adjustment was, because if it's been 10 years since I adjusted this patient, I may want to do some additional tests to determine what's going on that might not be required as much if the patient was just here 6 months ago. So that's an important part of this top section. This is what file type this is going to be set up as. So in this case, a cash file or general insurance. There's Medicare, personal injury, and workers' comp. So those are different file types that are listed there. So the CA is going to circle that, and obviously there would be today's date up here. Have they had previous chiropractic care? And we're going to dive into that today in our topic in terms of how important is it to obtain information about previous chiropractic care. And the way I said that was obviously a biased statement, because it's very important for a multitude of reasons, which I'll share with you. So in terms of that previous chiropractic care, we want to know who was the last chiropractor that they saw, if possible. When was their last adjustment? What was their frequency? And were they satisfied or unsatisfied? What type of care were they receiving? Was it a single one-time adjustment? Was it an acute adjustment? Was it for maintenance care? And then why did they stop going? Now, if the person has not been to a chiropractor before, if there was a big X through the no box here, then we would skip these two lines below it and go right into the positives of chiropractic and the negatives. And I'm going to show you this today. There is a sort of an odd little insert here, and that is the referred by. We didn't have a place for it up here, so we put it here. So although that doesn't really tie in exactly with the previous chiropractic care, we do want to know who referred this new patient to us. So we have that listed right in this section here. So that's what that form is for. And I'll get more into this when I show it to you in just a moment. But it's important to have that laid out. Now, you can imagine too how quickly that can be filled in. And I'll come back to that in a moment. Now, let's back up, right? The CA that was taking the history, who's going to be doing the history, left the room and left the patient with the subluxation information handout, right? And that was for them to actually read that and learn a little more about this condition that is so specialized in chiropractic and that we're going to be taking care of them for. So left the room, came back in, and as the patient now is holding that laminated subluxation information form. They've been reading it for probably 5 minutes. And while that was happening, the CA was setting up the file at the front desk. So now we want to, first of all, say, did you have any questions about the subluxation information? No, I didn't. Okay. And I'm sorry, let me back up, because there is something that you're going to see in the new patient outline sequence, whereby in the whole scope of this first visit, in pursuit of a good education about chiropractic, we're going to be asking the patient to repeat the word subluxation 3 times, and they're going to define it once. That's in the new patient sequence outline form. So we went over the subluxation information form. This would be the CA, asked them to repeat the word subluxation, went through a history of their chief complaint. Then one more time, just in case the doctor asks, what's that condition we're going to be looking for? It's a subluxation. That was number 2. Then we come back in and say, did you have any questions about the subluxation information? No, I didn't. Would you mind telling me in your words what a subluxation is? So now at this point, moving through the sequence, the patient has repeated the word subluxation twice, and they've defined it once. There's going to be a third time, which we'll come back to. It's going to be actually by the doctor. And all of this is not to pressure a new patient in any way. It's not to indoctrinate them into something that's, too too in depth for what they are looking for. No, it's actually to educate somebody so they can have an intelligent awareness of why they're coming to see us beyond pain relief as it relates to ongoing chiropractic care to maintain a healthy spine and nervous system. So to build up to somebody desiring that and wanting to incorporate that piece into their overall healthcare package, we want to make sure they have a good understanding. And the best way to help somebody to have a good understanding is to educate them in a way that they can actually share and have an intelligent conversation about whatever the topic is. So anyways, that we don't want to be too pressuring, but at the same time, we do want to help them to have a really good understanding. Okay, so then we're going to dive into their past chiropractic care. I'm going to go through the script with you. So let me show you that, because on the script, we actually have, there we go. We actually have the information for you right here. Now, what's nice about this is that, and I was actually just teaching on orientation. I have to share this story with you because I'm in practice just like you full time. And this was a great story that came up. I was teaching my orientation class this week on Tuesday night. And one of the patients in the audience raised his hand and said, because I was talking about the difference between addressing symptoms with medication, which masks the symptoms, versus actually correcting the cause of the problem through chiropractic care. And I mentioned, would everybody, how many of you would like to just mask the symptom and leave the problem there? And there was a chuckle through the room. And one of the guys raised his hand and said, well, wait a minute, what about this? Don't you have problems with medical doctors? I thought medical doctors didn't like chiropractors. And so it was interesting because that's on patients' mind. Now, when they come into your office, if they have some preconceived opinion or rumor or something they heard about chiropractic, that's going to stay with them, and they'll be watching for clues that you subscribe to that negative thing that they heard. And you might think, well, what is he talking about? Well, let me share with you what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, there we go. What I'm talking about is, for example, let's say that a new patient came to see you who was referred by a friend, and the friend said, you should go see Dr. Robinson. He really helped me. And then at the same time, the friend said, well, I just don't know if I can afford it. And then Dr. Robinson, who's in a different financial situation, just said, oh, yeah, they're pretty expensive. And actually, it is expensive. So, but my insurance covers it. You don't have insurance, but yeah, it's expensive. So now you've got this patient who's referred to see you, but in their mind, they're thinking, I don't know if I can afford this. Another example would be, well, actually, we're going to go through these in the script. So so that preconceived idea, if they come into your office and then you do a new patient consultation, and then you go into the report of findings and you lay out this beautiful care plan of how you're going to provide them with the best chiropractic care, and then at the end of that say, and by the way, that'll be $4,000. Whoa, that instantly relates back to what they thought about when they were talking with a friend, and now instantly in their mind they're thinking, oh yeah, that's right, they said it's really expensive, I can't afford this, and they're going to turn around and walk out. We want to avoid that by finding out what preconceived notions they have about chiropractic care and helping them to get past those in a way that they trust us. We're building trust. So that's what I want to show you here, because on this script, there's a couple of different specific things that people have in their mind. There are more than this, but this is the common ones. And I want to read through those with you. So I hear previous chiropractic care. I understand you've never been to a doctor of chiropractic, right? Yeah, that's correct. Well, I assume you've heard opinions about chiropractic care or things about chiropractic care. Do you mind sharing some of the things you've heard? Let's start with the positive things. So get the patient comfortable talking about what positive things they've heard. My friend told me you helped with their back pain. Great. Or actually, that's exactly what it says. You helped my friend with low back pain. That's why she referred me to you. Well, we get great results with low back pain, so you're definitely in the right place. Is there any other positive things you've heard? And and let me just highlight this, because in any of these questions, you'll always ask, is there any other positive things you've heard? You'll see in a minute when we get into the negative things too, but we always ask, is there anything else? And we want to ask, is there anything else, until the new patient says, No, there's nothing else. Why? Because in their mind, they'll save the one that they think might be the most insulting till last. They won't share that one up front. They don't want to be insulting and they want to be respectful. So they're going to, they're not going to tell you the one that's really kind of built up, if there is one, until last. So is there anything else that you've heard positive? No. Okay. Do you mind now that they've gotten comfortable talking about it? Now we want to dive into the negative things. Is there some negative things that you've heard? Well, one of those is once you go to a chiropractor once, you have to go forever. Right? I told you I was going to go through these scenarios. So these are the things that might be on your new patient's mind, and they're just waiting for a signal. As soon as you say, well, having chiropractic care is kind of like braces. Once you get your correction, then you wear a retainer after that to keep your teeth straight, or else they'll go back the way they were. I don't think I had that in here, but anyways, but you follow me. So as soon as somebody says that, though, bells go off in the patient's mind and they start to backpedal. So we want to get these out of the way first so that they're fully, so the trust is there. We want to build trust. That's important. The trust is always important between any doctor-patient relationship. So I've heard you have to go forever, or I've heard that once you go once, you have to keep going forever. Well, I've heard that too. The good news is that Dr. Sawyer uses an advanced approach called corrective care, which definitely has an end. So there's the initial care, which is corrective. And then after that, there's ongoing supportive care, which I subscribe to. My wife and I and our children, we all get adjusted on a regular basis. I've been adjusted now for 33 years on a weekly basis, sometimes more. I just got adjusted yesterday. So for me, it's easy to say, yeah, that's what I do to take care of myself, but not for somebody who doesn't have the experience that we have in chiropractic. So that's one example. And we want to talk about that. We want to bring it out because now if they had that opinion in their mind, now we've talked about it. And what have we done? We've built trust, right? We have corrective care. And then they may say, well, what about after corrective care? Then what? Well, you get to choose. I mean, you can choose how you want to use chiropractic care. Some people like to continue, some don't. And either way, that's fine. Okay. So another negative impression might be that it hurts when you get adjusted, right? People have heard that. And that might make them nervous about having a chiropractic adjustment. Well, I've heard that it can hurt a lot when you get your neck cracked. Well, I'm happy to say that Dr. Robinson uses very gentle techniques. We provide care for newborn babies and even seniors in their 90s who are very comfortable. Are there any other negative things you've heard? See, we're asking, what else? What else? We're not going to let it go until we know that we've addressed all of their concerns. Here's another one, the high cost. I mentioned that one earlier. I heard it costs a lot of money. Well, something that separates us from other chiropractors is our affordable fees. And we're always able to work with you to get the care that you need. Period. Like, we're happy to work with you. That's a great stress relief of somebody who's financially limited, but still wants to get the care that they need. As soon as you say, hey, we'll work with you, it's okay. Okay, great. Good. How about cause strokes, right? We're in chiropractic. For those of us who have been in practice a long time, we're all familiar with the Wilkes lawsuit. Chester Wilk, who recently passed away, sadly, but he took on the AMA and won. The AMA tried to eliminate chiropractic. He sued them and won a huge lawsuit. But that's where that whole rumor or word of mouth or whatever you want to call that, that's when it all started, right? It was in the 80s from that one lawsuit that started again from the AMA. Anyways, I heard it can cause strokes. Our extremely low malpractice insurance premiums are an example of how safe and effective chiropractic care is. We use very gentle techniques and your chances of an injury are very, very low. Are there any other negative things you've heard about chiropractic care? No. Okay, great. So we asked, what else? What else? What else? Thank you for sharing the information with me. Not sure if you can hear that siren in the background, but it reminds me of a story. And the story is that in Davenport, Iowa, in the early 1900s, Dr. B.J. Palmer used to drive around in an ambulance with the sirens blaring to attract attention. But on the ambulance was all of his epigrams were painted about chiropractic care. Get chiropractic care, get off your drugs, no more drugs. It was all painted on the ambulance, and he would drive around in that ambulance with the sirens blaring to attract attention. One of the quotes was, attract the eye to reach the mind. That's another Dr. B.J. Palmer quote. And and that would attract attention. So that's just a marketing tactic. I don't think you want to use that these days, but I heard the siren in the background. I don't know if you could hear that too, but I just thought I'd share that with you. So let's get back on track. It's interesting how once we sort of address these potential concerns, you can just see the patient go, oh, okay, great. I feel better now. I was thinking about that. I was hoping it wasn't going to be a problem. I had my defenses ready in case it was, but now that you've explained it, I feel much better. So it's a nice way to address that and then move forward from there. So that's the past chiropractic care. Now we're going to get into the chief complaint using details from the consultation details form. And there's basically 3 areas that we want to train on, or that we want to ask about or inquire about in this area. And this is where I said train on, because this is where you want to train your CAs, right? So that your CAs can help with this patient history. Specifically, we want to know the date of onset, we want to know the original cause, and we want to know the frequency. Now, date of onset is an interesting one, because oftentimes when somebody comes in with some type of back pain, if my initial question would be, how long has this been going on? And they'll say, well, it's been 2 weeks, or it's been a week, or it's been 3 days, and it's really bothering me. And so I had to do something about it, and here I am. But upon a little further digging, we'll often find that this has actually been a more chronic problem. And this is particularly one flare-up that's significant enough to where they acted on it. So many times with just a couple basic questions, we'll actually find that somebody has had a particular symptom or a sign that's been going on for sometimes years. And where that relates to how we're going to take care of this patient isn't so much in the adjustment per se, but what it does is it equates to the big picture. We're always looking for people to not only receive chiropractic care to help with a health challenge and resolve it, through releasing the nervous system, releasing the innate potential, having a chiropractic adjustment to correct the subluxation. Thereby, once that innate potential is released, the body heals itself and then maintains homeostasis and a high level of health. That was a quick little nutshell of chiropractic philosophy. Yes, we would love for everyone to have that, but this is a stepping stone to get there, whereby, based on whatever their chief complaint is, that needs to equate to an extended care plan. If we're to leave behind a pain-based chiropractic model, which is the big picture goal, right? If we just have patients coming in for pain relief, then we're simply following in the footsteps of medicine. If we can help patients to understand the big picture of chiropractic, to not just get adjusted so your body can heal itself of a health challenge and heal itself in a way that pain fades away, but to actually have overall optimum health of the body through a fully functioning nervous system. It's exciting, right? It's fun. It's amazing when people get that light bulb that goes on, or as BJ called it, when they get the big idea and all else follows. Now you've got somebody who says, I want chiropractic care for myself and for my spouse and for my children and for my family, and I want it to be an ongoing care plan where I can receive chiropractic care to maintain optimum health. That's what we want. Now, to bridge the gap and get there takes this kind of a process. Okay, so where was I going with all that? Where I'm going with that is, when you're asking about the chief complaint, having a date of onset that's a week or so ago, or 10 days ago, or even 2 months ago, we're aiming for a minimum of 1 year. Now, we're not going to make anything up. We're not going to fabricate anything. But in our line of questioning, we want to ask, when was the very first time you ever experienced this pain or this symptom? If you think back, when was the very first time? Did you ever have this as a child? Did you have this in college? When was it? And if our line of questioning brings about a date of onset that was greater than or equal to 1 year ago, we want to document that, because then it's going to tie into our recommendations for more of a long-term care plan. Okay. So that's why we ask those questions. We're going to move on. After we've asked about the chief complaint details, then we add the information to the consultation details form. So I want to jump back over to the website for you so I can show you this, because on that form, let me close this here. Here's the consultation details script, and that goes through original onset, frequency, duration, intensity, and then it also talks about explaining a subluxation. So this is a great script that you can use for your team to follow and incorporate into this history-taking part of the consultation. So that's on there for you. But what I want to show you is this one here. This is the consultation details sample. And you saw on the PowerPoint, you saw this top glimpse here of a person's previous chiropractic care. Here's the flow of this, right? When the CA stepped out of the room, they filled in the patient name, they filled in this top line here, and that's basically it. Then, well, actually, it does previous chiropractic care and who referred them. So that's also going to be filled in. But when they come back in, they're going to ask these questions about previous chiropractic care, and they're going to ask about the chief complaint. And from this section here down to here, this is all going to be one part or piece whereby they'll ask those questions and then they'll fill this out. Now, I know filling it out on here looks like a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of type on here. And when you look at the actual blue writing, there's not a lot to write down. So it goes pretty quickly, and it makes it really easy to use kind of a shorthand form and fill this in. So that's that's what we'll be filling out in this first section. Okay, that's the chief complaint and the information I just went over. So let's jump back over to our screen now. We add this information to the consultation details, and that's the first time we write that down. So we just write that down, and it takes a minute. It's kind of quiet, but the patient's thinking about what we just talked about, so it's okay that it's quiet, and then we move on. Once we've done that, right, and we got right down to here. Oops, let me go back. Sorry. Right down to provide add information to the consultation details. Now we want to provide a visual description of the subluxation, and there's a video for that on the website. So you can watch that video and get more information there. I'll just show it to you quickly, because on the website we have the video here. That's in the consultation details demo. So it's right on the website. It's just a short 5-minute video, and it's me going through and explaining the subluxation for the patient in a way that they can really understand it. And one thing I want to add about this is a term called Socratic education. So Socratic education is where we're asking questions to help build a better understanding of our patient. So it helps to guide the conversation in a very educational way. So you'll see that in that video where I'm asking questions while I'm explaining what a subluxation is for this new patient. So you'll see that there. All right. So here's the blank consultation details. That's on the website. So you can just print that right off the website. The front side is the consultation and health history, and the back side is the examination findings. So we'll be getting into that in an upcoming section. All right. So let's go back to our PowerPoint, because once we've provided that visual description of the subluxation in a Socratic way, then we're going to now tie it into the related symptoms, the other health problems that they may be having, aside from their chief complaint. And I want to just for a moment define two terms. There's chief complaint and there's primary concerns. The chief complaint is what the patient came in presenting with. The primary concerns is towards the end of the consultation, we're going to reprioritize what their biggest motivator is to getting their health back on track. And sometimes the chief complaint and the primary concern are the same, and sometimes they change. So it just depends. And you'll see how this starts to really connect and flow as we go through this. We want to, for a moment, get into other health problems. Now, let me show you what that looks like, because here I have these two charts. Now, in my office, I use the neuropathylator, which is a chart. You may have heard of it, but you push a button and it lights up. Or you can order these posters. I think Share has them, or Parker College has them, but order these posters. And what's important about them, if you follow my mouse, is it shows the skeletal distribution of nerves. So people can relate visually to, if I have lower back pain, well, yeah, that's this part of the body. Or if I have neck pain, that's this part of the body. So they can relate visually to where they're feeling symptoms. What they oftentimes don't realize is how expansive the nervous system is, and how those same nerves that might be causing lower back pain are also feeding into their digestion, their urinary system, their reproductive organs. And if they're having interference to those nerves, not only will it cause symptoms like lower back pain, but it may also cause problems like infertility or constipation or bladder infections, those types of things, because their nervous system is out of balance. So we want to connect the dots for them and show these real visual representations of where those nerves go to start to uncover these related symptoms. And why do we want to do this? Because when we take care of our patient, this is so exciting with chiropractic, because when we take care of a patient and we adjust them and their innate potential is released and their body goes to a new higher threshold of health, oftentimes these symptoms just fade away, right? They're not an issue anymore. Now, if we don't document this at the front end, who gets credit for that? Nobody. But if we do document it, if we ask the right questions during the history, if we document it in the patient's file and then follow up with it later, chiropractic gets the credit. Why? Because the patient says, I had that lower back pain, but I also used to have years and years of constipation. And now that I'm getting chiropractic care, my back pain is gone. But even better yet, I used to really struggle with constipation, and that's gone too. So it really magnifies the credit that goes to chiropractic in terms of the results that people are getting when we ask these questions at the beginning and really uncover the potential for where their health can go when they're receiving chiropractic care. So very exciting stuff. And we don't want to gloss over this, because if we do, we miss that opportunity for these patients to really get, as close to the big idea as possible, right? In chiropractic school, we studied it so much that yes, we get the big idea, and that's part of going through that process and graduating. But patients, according, in the words of B.J. Palmer, they're not really going to get the big idea, but they can get pretty close, and we can help them to get as close as possible through our education. So that's the related symptoms. Now I'm going to jump back over to the website. I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit today, but this is good stuff, and it really helps not only your education process for new patients, but it also helps your own conviction for how you communicate with patients when they talk to you. Let me just jump back over here to, let's see, where did you go? Oh, there we go. Okay, to the website. So in here, that we've actually created this for you. So here's the related symptoms reference guide. And what this has is, and we've actually updated this just this year. For those of you who've been with DC trainings for a long time, you'll notice that it used to look different. And I feel like this is a better layout. So what we've done is we've subdivided the spine into 3 sections. And in each of those 3 sections, we've further subdivided it into 2 sections. So for example, head and neck, middle back, and lower back, that's the 3 sections. And then the 2 subsections are somatic and visceral. So under somatic, for the head and neck, for example, they could have pain. There's 3 more subsets. So it goes 3 sections of the spine. Then for each one of those sections, it goes somatic, visceral. And for each one of those sections, we go into pain, circulation, and weakness. These are symptoms related to. So symptoms related to pain would show up in the head, neck, shoulder, arm, and hand. Symptoms related to circulation would be things like shoulder tension, numbness and tingling, cold hands, or muscle cramping. Symptoms related to weakness would be loss of strength, muscle atrophy, or paralysis. Now you'll notice something and I find this very helpful, because it not only flows for training your team so a CA can do a detailed history, but it also, in the mind of the patient, flows in a way that they can start to understand some basic anatomy of how their body functions. And with that understanding, helps them to prioritize taking care of it with chiropractic care. It also does something else, and that is that in terms of pain, circulation, and weakness, we're going in increasing order of severity. Now, this is something that's important in terms of your your education process and for obtaining the right information. For each one of the 3 sections of the spine, we're going to ask about specific symptoms. And as we ask about them, we're going to ask about them in increasing order of severity. Now, and I'll just play this out for you. Let's say that it's the lower back. We're talking about pain, circulation, or weakness in the legs. Well, if it's pain, that would just, pain be radiating down your leg. Have you had any of that? No, or yes, I have. Wow. Now, if you've had that, then have you had any circulation problems like swelling in your legs and feet? Have you had any numbness and tingling? Have you had any cold feet? Well, yeah, I've had that too. Oh, wow. Now, if you've had that and the pain symptoms, have you also had weakness like loss of strength, tripping, falling, paralysis in your feet, anything like that? Well, no, I haven't had that. Oh, okay, good. See, and by asking those questions, not only am I increasing the order of severity, but I'm building concern on the mind of the patient, because in their mind, what are they thinking? They're thinking, well, I had that and I had that, but I don't have that yet. Sounds like that's what's coming. And so, but the way that I was asked about this, I don't want to go any further. Once again, I'm now, as a patient, going to prioritize taking care of this condition properly and better and for the long term, based on what I understand about the process of how this could get worse over time. So in our line of questioning, we're actually providing more education about how the body can, or how this condition, the subluxation, can progressively cause more and more damage, thereby increasing value for this person to say, I don't want that. And if I don't want that, and I value the solution, which is chiropractic care, not only do I not want that, but I'm willing to pay for it. And I'm willing to pay for it long term. Now, I'm just going to say this as a sidebar, because I know that there's a couple doctors on the call that have a practice that's pretty heavy in insurance. I know one of you has, I'm not going to name any names, but one of you has a pretty heavy practice that does personal injury, and another one of you has a practice that's pretty heavy in group health type of insurance. And I know you may be thinking, well, patients are going to come anyways because they don't have to pay as much for their care, right? If I have a personal injury case and it's covered 100%, then the value doesn't have to be as strong around getting this patient to pay out of pocket. But I disagree, because even with those patients that have their initial part of their care covered through insurance, that's just a stepping stone to wellness, because all insurance balks at wellness care and maintenance care. And what we ultimately want for our patients is to reach a level of health where they value that level, they enjoy it, and they value it enough to where, regardless of whether insurance pays or not, they continue to pay. And I'll share one more example and then I'll move on. But I have recently removed myself from a certain insurance network. And the reason why I removed myself was because this particular insurance network was selling plans that covered a certain number of visits. But when it came down to providing those visits as a benefit to the patients, they told the patients, you've got X number of visits, but they told the providers, the doctors, you can't use all those visits, because if you do, we'll remove you from the network. Now you could see the ethical concern here, right? They're selling plans with a promise, but then they're telling the members, the providers, we're not going to fulfill that promise. So I removed myself from that network. Ethically, I just couldn't continue in that environment where I was withdrawing patients, the care that patients were entitled to, not based on their condition or not based on anything other than it was the profit of the insurance company. So anyways, I had to meet with some patients and tell them, I've withdrawn myself from your network. I was very happy to learn. So far I've met with several patients and I've worked with them financially so that it wasn't a huge hit to them. And I dropped our fees down a little bit to give them a little more bang for their buck. But all of our patients have continued care. They haven't dropped out. Why? In my opinion, they value the care. We built value. And by building value, those patients are saying, regardless of whether my insurance pays for this, I would love them to pay for it. But if they don't, I'm going to pay for it because I need this, right? So it was a nice compliment to us, and we really appreciated that. Anyway, so let me go ahead and move on and talk about the rest of this consultation process. So we covered the related symptoms, right? There's a related symptoms script here. So, and this is a very short script, but it ties in with that whole prior page that I showed you. There's a lot of symptoms on there. And I have a CA who just passed this script and she nailed it. It was great. So we did a lot of role playing and testing, and she passed it. She did a great job. So just know that this short little script is actually sort of the shoe in to the whole page of related symptoms. But with the new way that we've organized it and laid it out, I feel like the new way is really a lot easier to follow. And I'm referring to this one here, the related symptoms reference guide. I feel like this flow is a much easier way to follow. And then at the bottom, these are the abbreviations you can use so that when you are in the middle of taking the history or doing the consultation, you can very quickly write down symptoms without it taking a lot of time. So these are all the shorthand abbreviations for you at the bottom. But let's go through this. So this diagram shows how the nerves from your spine travel into every part of your body with important messages from your brain. You have been feeling pain in your lower back here, correct? Now, it says down here, begin with the area of chief complaint using the related symptoms reference guide to connect the symptoms and or all body regions. Using a diagram of the body, point to the area of chief complaint. I'm going to take that a step further. What I like to do is when a patient, and my CAs, I train my team on this, but when a patient says, I'm having this back pain, I want to say, show me where. And I ask them to literally point at their back where it's hurting so I can see it. And I'm actually going to touch it too. I'm going to touch and say, is it right here? Yeah, it's right there. Because, even as children, we remember, when we stubbed our toe or bloodied our knee and our mom came up and said, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me touch that for you. So sorry. Okay. And you just instantly kind of feel better. You feel like, oh, good. Somebody actually cares. There's empathy. And that just starts the healing process. So I think it's important for us to have that level of bonding and trust with our patients so that we can actually touch the area and they know that we know now exactly where their troubles are. So it builds that bond and that relationship. So from there, we're going to, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong place, but let me just jump back over to our PowerPoint because these are the charts. Anyways, so let's keep going. So we want to use the related symptoms script and use the related symptoms reference guide to uncover any other symptoms that are going on with this individual. And we want to document that because there's the potential for any and or all of those related symptoms to fade into the history and fade into the sunset, go away when a person's now going to become subluxation free or as close to it as possible. So we demonstrate that with the spinal segment. That was on the video. Use your anatomical charts and neuropathylator. Relate subluxations as a possible source. And then we add that information to the consultation details, which is the second series, of written notes. So the first series we did was the top section on the chief complaint and the opinions of chiropractic care. The second series of written notes is the associated symptoms or associated body parts in other areas of the body. Okay, so watch the video and you'll see how that works. Now in the seminar atmosphere, we would have time to practice this, but we're not going to do that today. But I do want to emphasize the importance of practicing this. I have a weekly, and this is even when my team is fully trained, every week we spend 1 hour role-playing scenarios in the office, scripts, patient concerns, flow through the office. Every week we have 1 hour dedicated to that training with myself and my team. So I really encourage you, have that time every week. It's only 1 hour with your whole team. Pick a script, pick a procedure, pick a scenario, and train on that. You're going to see an incredible rise in the confidence of your team if you stick to that schedule. All right, so next week we'll get into the primary concerns, which from the consultation details, and actually I'll jump back over to our website, because from the consultation details, you now are going to have a list of symptoms, right? So you're going to have the chief complaint, you're going to have the other health problems, right? We're gonna tie that into the primary concerns later. But you notice how the first part you wrote was the chiropractic care and the chief complaint. Then the second time you wrote was where you added other health problems. So it's just this section right here. That's it. It's not a lot of writing. Just takes a moment, write it down, let the room be quiet for a minute. And then as it gets further, then you're going to write down the primary concerns and the effects that it's having on them. You'll write that down. So there's these 3 sections. We just move right through with our line of questioning, and blended into that line of questioning, we have our education process. Okay, so good stuff, and it's all right there for you on the website, ready to go. So just wanted to share that with you. Now, before we leave this page here, we have our next seminar, which is the report of findings. That's on May 20th. So that's coming up. Just want to remind everyone, when you go onto the website and you if you want to RSVP for that seminar, we'll be mailing your materials for you, but this is not a live seminar. Module 3 will be a virtual seminar. Module 4, the financial arrangements, that will be our next live seminar. And I invite you to come to my office. We're going to spend the day together and really roll up our sleeves and really dial in how to lay out the financial arrangements in a variety of different care plans, all the way from cash up to insurance. So we'll lay all that out. But please, RSVP for the report of findings seminar coming up on the 20th of May. And don't forget to plug in your goals tracking system information. That's really important. So we go to the My Practice page here, and then just put that information in there. It'll track your success rates towards your goals. So don't forget to do that. It's just a great tool. It's very valuable. So that's there for you as well. But in the meantime, as always, for anybody else, if you need to reach me, just email us, dctrainings@gmail.com, or hop on our weekly webinar, and we'll be happy to take it a step further. And remember the why of what we're doing here. We're obtaining information from a person who is suffering from the effects of what could be subluxations. And anybody who's struggling with health problems doesn't have the potential to experience life at the fullest, and doesn't have the potential to contribute to society at the fullest level. So our pursuit of helping everyone to function at a level that we all deserve, but a level that's high level health, this is what we're pursuing. And this is why we want to continue to learn and incorporate these steps into our practices, so we can provide the best care to the best people, and they can have the best health. And that's why we're doing it. So thank you very much for joining today, and I will talk to you next week.
If you would like to become a member of DC Trainings, be sure to head on over to dctrainings.com to get started today.